Okay, welcome back to part 2 of Unit 1.1, the long-term causes of World War I. Let's jump right back into it where we left off. We left off on alliances. Now let's take a look at the next long-term cause, the next letter in our MANIA acronym, and it is going to be N, and that stands for nationalism. All right, nationalism is a very, very interesting, very complex part of this whole puzzle. So nationalism can be both good and it can be bad, right? One example I like to bring up is the World Cup in soccer, right? Your team is playing, it is winning, you have pride in your country. That is good nationalism, right? Nationalism like that does not necessarily hurt anybody, all right? But when nationalism becomes extreme, or a word that we use in this class to, instead of it, right? It's this word right here. Right? When we have radical nationalism, that's when nationalism becomes a problem. Right? That's when nationalism becomes an issue. Okay? Radical nationalism would be like when I like my group of people more than other groups to the point where I think that my group is superior to the other group, or I think the other group is inferior to my group. All right? That's what we're going to see in Nazi Germany. All right, we don't have to know much about that yet, but we will talk about it later. But my group of people, the Germans, the purebred Germans, pure-blooded Germans, are going to be better than other ethnic groups inside of Europe. Okay, that's when we see nationalism take on this bad connotation, and there are points in Europe that have these bad parts of nationalism sprout up from the 19th century carrying into the 20th century, where I think my ethnic group is necessarily better than other ethnic groups, or what we see in World War I, where I think that my ethnic group is superior to my country. Right? That's going to be exclusive to World War I because we see empires in World War I. Right? So if the empire is ruled by ethnicity A, but I am ethnicity B, I feel like I'm better than the ethnicity that rules over me. I want to break away. And that's when revolutions start, and that's one of the reasons that World War I kind of begins, is because ethnic groups feel dominance over other ethnic groups, sometimes within the same country. All right? If we look at America right now, we've got negative nationalism going on inside of this country all over the place. All right? Black Lives Matter, white supremacy are two examples of that, where they feel like their ethnic group might be better, superior, or inferior to the other one. All right, and that causes clashes that historically have led to things like civil war. Hopefully it doesn't come to that. That's a conversation for another day. But that is a modern day example of that kind of negative nationalism. All right, let's move on to, here are just some examples of nationalism, right? This is something I definitely want to highlight right here. Alsace-Lorraine is going to be territory that was French, that Germany took in the 1870s, right? Germany took it from France. They won a war against France. It was called the Franco-Prussian War, okay? Germany took it. France wanted it back. They couldn't really beat Germany in war alone to get it back, all right? So German nationalism was kind of solidified by that victory, right? French nationalism was solidified in their hatred towards Germans, right? So you have nationalism that can come from different things, right? Nationalism coming from a good thing, like winning a war, or nationalism coming from a bad thing, which is hating another group. And we're all going to combine together because we hate a different group, right? Slavic people in Austria-Hungary wanted independence. That's kind of the example that I was talking about. The Slavic people were not the majority of the Austria-Hungarian Empire. They wanted their own independence, all right? So that's another kind of bad part of nationalism. All right, the Balkan League. You're going to see this come up in the short-term causes of World War I, but essentially the Ottoman Empire had control of that area once known as the Balkans, right? And the Ottoman Empire is going to be the sick, dying man of Europe. It's collapsing in on itself, so it's losing power. So all of those ethnic groups inside of the Balkans are going to claim their independence from the Ottoman Empire. and they're going to join an alliance called the Balkan League. All right, so we got Serbia and Montenegro and Albania and Greece. Who gets to lead it? Right? Who is the best ethnic group in the Balkans to lead the Balkan League? The Greeks think that they are. The Serbians think that they are. And they're going to wind up fighting to see who the best ethnicity is inside of what used to be an alliance. So you see, nationalism has these deep-rooted tensions and these deep-rooted problems inside of Europe. Cartoon time, all right? What does this picture say about nationalism? All right, and we're going to pause the video for a minute here. You're going to have a little kind of response, right? But let's break this picture down. When you're looking at a political cartoon like this, it's always, my first rule is KISS. Keep it simple, silly. What do you see? You don't want to automatically fixate on one small thing over here, because then you might miss something over here, and that might really change the meaning of that cartoon, right? So, what do we see? We see a group of people. They seem to be following a leader, and that leader seems to be marching them off of a cliff. Now, step 2, right? Back to that first thing. Step 1 is observe. We just observed. Step 2 is analyze, right? What are we seeing here? So, that leader is holding a flag called nationalism. So nationalism seems to be the reason that leader is leading. And other people are following him because of that nationalistic idea, right? Okay, one step further, let's draw a conclusion. If you blindly follow nationalism, it can lead you to your death, right? It could be so bad that it leads to the breaking up of what used to be. It could mean physical death. It could mean the death of a nation. It could be the death of an ethnic group. It could be the death of a lot of things. But nationalism can be negative. That's what this cartoon is trying to say. If we really want to break it down, this leader is supposed to be Adolf Hitler, and we know that because of the march these soldiers are doing was the Nazi march at the time. It's known as the Goose Step, right? So that's breaking down that cartoon. Next long-term cause, we have industrialization, right? So industrialization is going to be, another reason for World War I to break out. It's the building up of industrial goods inside of a country, all right? Before the Industrial Revolution, countries were mostly agrarian. They were farm-based economies. And then the Industrial Revolution happened, right? So we've got the need for raw materials in order to produce a finished product, right? And the need for raw materials is going to be a huge source of tension, okay? If we look at a country like England, England is not very rich in natural resources, so they had to go outside of its border and get colonies to then produce enough natural resources to become, economically superior, right? But there are only a finite number of colonies in the world. So competition over those colonies is going to be a big kind of cause, a repercussion of industrialization. All right? Otto von Bismarck, he's going to be an early leader of Germany back in the 19th century. But he is going to kind of unify Germany as a new country under the motto of blood and iron. All right? So we are going to produce, we're a country very rich in natural resources. We're going to industrialize that strength, and we're going to fight. We are going to go to war to acquire more natural resources and to protect our own natural resources. So Germany is very, very, very rich in natural resources, and it kind of becomes their motto. It becomes their unifying thing, blood and iron, right? So by the turn of the century, by 1910, Germany is competing with England in terms of economic power, right? And the amount of things like steel and iron that it's able to produce. Germany has no colonies at the time. So imagine what Germany could do over colonies, if it had colonies. So the tension between Germany and England is going to be really, really, really high over this idea of industrialization. Who is the richest, wealthiest country, right? Okay, the last one is imperialism. All right, that is the last I in the MANIA acronym. Imperialism is described as a big core country taking over a small periphery country. Don't think of big and small in terms of landmass. Think in terms of like economic power, right? So, like I just said, England, right? England was a strong country at the time. It went and took over weaker countries. It took their natural resources, sent them back to England, turned them into finished products, all right? Making money for mom, making money for the mother country. That was the idea behind colonization, aka imperialism, right? Like I just said, Germany had no colonies. It was really powerful without colonies. Imagine what it could do with colonies, okay? So we're going to see a lot of tension happen in Europe over the acquisition of colonies. So the point that we want to make here is that countries, once they acquired a colony, did everything in their power to protect that colony, to make sure that another country could not come in and take anything away from that colony. All right. This is something I'll explain down the line in another video. This video is getting a little bit long already, so I want to... Okay, I changed my mind. I'm going to talk about tariffs right now. So, the way tariffs work. A tariff, the definition of the word tariff is a tax on imported goods, right? A tax on something that comes into your country. So I have two markers right here. Where's my camera? Here we go. I have two markers. These are identical markers, right? Nothing is different about these markers, okay? This marker right here is made in the United States. If I went to the store and bought it, it would cost $1. This marker right here is made in China. All right. If I went to the store, this marker would cost 50 cents. Which marker are you guys going to buy? You're going to buy the cheaper marker, right? It's only 50 cents. Okay. Whose economy do you help if you buy this marker? You help the economy of China. That's not good for America, right? So what we do is we place a tariff or a tax on the imported good. This marker was made in America. It cost $1. All right, let's say the tariff on markers is $1. All right, how much money does this marker cost after the tariff? Still $1, because this is not an imported good. This is a domestic product, right? This marker, made in China. It used to cost 50 cents. Now with the tariff, how much does it cost? It costs $1.50, right? Now we go to the store, which marker are you going to buy? Now you're going to buy this one. You're going to buy the American marker and help out the American economy, all right? So a tariff is a form of what we call protectionism, right? So we are protecting the domestic goods. What happened is colonial powers put crazy tariffs on imported goods to their colonies. So if Britain owned a lot of colonies and Germany wanted to sell stuff to colonies, it couldn't, because the tax was so high that the colonists could not afford to buy the German goods, right? So tariffs were a huge source of tension around the world as we lead up to World War I. So the only way to get around tariffs is to have your own colonies and protect those colonies with your own tariffs. But if you're a country like Germany or Italy or Russia, you don't have a lot of colonies, right? So the competition for colonies, the competition for markets became very, 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 very high. And that does nothing but cause more and more tension. Right? So we have colonial tensions happen all over the world. Britain at the center of it, being one of the biggest colonial powers in the world. Asia being a huge hotbed of tension because there are a lot of people in Asia. We really want the consumers in Asia. So Asian markets are going to be in high demand. And who gets to control a place like China, right? With hundreds of millions of people at the time, who gets to control China, right? France and Germany fighting over that Alsace-Lorraine region because it's super industrialized. There are just colonial conflicts all over the world. It's one of the major sources of tension in Europe. Markets, colonies, imperialism. All right, and lastly, we've got the last A in this whole situation, and it's called the alliance system. So the way alliances worked were they were defensive military alliance. If I am friends with country A and say I will defend you if you're attacked, and country B attacks country A, I then have to go to war with country B because I was in an alliance with country A, right? Country A was in an alliance with country C, and I attacked country A. Now country C attacks me because I attacked their ally. That's the alliance system. The way that alliances play out is known as the alliance system. So think dominoes. Once one country attacks another, all of the alliances get enacted and we wind up at war. Okay? That's a little bit confusing. If you have questions about that one, let me know. It's hard to define. It's easy when you see it play out, which we'll see it play out right before World War I actually breaks out. Okay? All right, here are the end product of the alliances going into World War I. This will make a little bit more sense once we talk about the short-term causes, but we see the Triple Alliance here. We kind of colored those in yesterday in our map, or not yesterday, whenever you watch the video. We see the Triple Entente right here, and then we see the Balkans and the Ottoman Empire kind of split in the middle, and we'll talk more about that again when we talk about the short-term causes. All right? This was a long video. I'm going to break it up into a couple of different assignments, but I hope that you guys understood it. Let me know if you have any questions, and be good.